Imagine standing on an ancient battlefield. You see swords, spears, shields, armored soldiers moving toward each other, and then a tiny object flies through the air. You don't see the person who launched it. You don't hear a sword being drawn. You only hear a sudden impact, and a soldier drops. The weapon? Not a sword, not a spear, not even a bow. It was something so simple that almost anyone could carry it. A sling. And in the hands of a trained warrior, a sling could become one of the most terrifying weapons of the ancient world. At first, a sling doesn't look dangerous. It's basically a small pouch attached to two cords. No metal blade, no complicated mechanism, no expensive materials. But that's exactly what made it so powerful. It was cheap, easy to carry, and with enough training, extremely effective. The basic idea was simple. A stone was placed inside the pouch. The warrior swung the sling in a circular motion, building up speed. Then one cord was released, and the stone shot forward. But here's the part that makes the weapon terrifying. The sling wasn't simply throwing a rock, it was dramatically increasing the speed of the projectile. A small stone traveling at high speed could strike with enough force to cause devastating injuries. And unlike a sword, the person using it didn't need to get close to the enemy. That gave sling fighters a huge advantage. They could attack from a distance, while staying away from the enemy's weapons. And ancient armies knew exactly how dangerous these warriors could be. One of the most famous examples comes from the Mediterranean. The Balearic Islands became famous for producing highly skilled slingers. These warriors were known for their ability to use different sizes of slings, and their skill was developed from a very young age. According to ancient accounts, some boys were even trained to hunt and fight with the sling as children. Their accuracy wasn't just a party trick, it could become a battlefield advantage. Imagine facing an enemy formation, and suddenly hundreds of projectiles begin flying toward you. You may have a shield, you may have armor, but you're still being attacked from a distance, before the main armies even collide. And there's another advantage. A sling could fire different types of projectiles. The simplest option was a rounded stone, but ancient warriors also used specially shaped ammunition. Some civilizations produced lead sling bullets. These were small, but dense, and because lead is much heavier than stone of the same size, it could make an extremely dangerous projectile. Some ancient lead sling bullets have even been discovered by archaeologists. And here's something fascinating. Some of these projectiles were marked with symbols or inscriptions. In other words, ancient warriors weren't always throwing random rocks. They could carry purpose-made ammunition. But the sling had another advantage that modern weapons don't always have: silence. A sword makes noise. A spear can be seen coming. But a sling projectile could travel toward an enemy with very little warning. By the time someone realized what was happening, it could already be too late. And this wasn't just a weapon used by one civilization. Slings appeared in different parts of the ancient world. They were used for hunting, defense, and warfare. The technology was incredibly simple, which meant it could survive for thousands of years. And that's what makes the sling so interesting. The deadliest weapons aren't always the most complicated. Sometimes the most dangerous technology is the simplest. A blade requires metal, a bow requires a carefully constructed weapon and ammunition. But a sling, a couple of cords, a pouch, and a projectile. That's almost all you need. Of course, the real weapon wasn't just the sling. It was the person using it. A completely untrained person could pick up a sling and barely hit anything. But a highly trained slinger could develop incredible timing, accuracy, and control. That meant years of practice could turn an ordinary piece of material into a serious battlefield weapon. And there was one more psychological advantage. Imagine being an ancient soldier. You're standing in formation. Your shield is in front of you. The enemy is still far away. Then stones begin crashing into your formation. You can't easily see where they're coming from. You don't know when the next one is coming. And you know that every projectile could be carrying enough force to seriously injure you. The enemy hasn't even reached you yet, and you're already under attack. That's the terrifying genius of the sling. It turned distance into protection, and a simple stone into a weapon. Today, we often imagine ancient warfare as soldiers charging at each other with swords, but real ancient battles were much more complicated. Archers attacked from a distance, spearmen defended formations, cavalry attacked from the sides, and slingers could rain projectiles onto an enemy before close combat even began. So, was the sling literally the deadliest weapon of the ancient world? Probably not. Ancient warfare had countless weapons capable of causing enormous destruction, but the sling deserves a place among the most effective, simple weapons ever created, because it proves something that has remained true throughout human history. A weapon doesn't have to be complicated to be deadly. Sometimes, all you need is a piece of leather, two cords, a small projectile, and a warrior who knows exactly how to use it. And that raises an interesting question. How many other ancient weapons that look completely harmless were actually terrifying in the hands of someone who had mastered them? Because when you look closely at ancient history, the most dangerous weapon isn't always the one that looks the most impressive. Sometimes it's the simplest one.